Hey guys, today I am here with a really great role model of mine, my Uncle Canal. So, Grandpa Canal, I am really sorry. That lady that you heard through the other part of the camera, that's my grandma. She's reading a beautiful magazine. So, on my last video, I did a video for cancer, and I did a video about my nephew. I thought I should do another video with my family members. So, here's just some background info. Uncle Canal is 91 years old. He lived during the time of World War II, and I am his great grandson or something like that. So, you ready for the video?
Yep.
Alright, let's go. So, what impact did your brother have on your life?
Well, Elmer was 2 years older than I was, so we were pretty close. And we did a lot of things together, in play and at work on the farm. And he was always good to me, generous to me. When he left for service, I got to use his car, and that was pretty good. And that was worth a lot. So I was in 11th grade at school, and he went to the service, and I could drive his car. And I needed a car because I lived at least 10 miles away from high school. So I had a car to take to high school. It was quite a blessing on that day. So, even after he was home again from the service later on, he was always very generous. And when he gave us financial help when we needed it without us asking for it. He was married, had no children. We were married, soon had 5 children. And of course 1 paycheck, and he had 2. And so he could afford it, but he also used it, and without asking, he helped us along, because Jane and I were struggling to make ends meet, and we always buying. Every few years we needed another car, because we bought old ones, junkers, that didn't cost much. And so he came along, and after he was out of the service, and he and his wife got married, had no children, and saw our need and offered to buy us a good car, and we could pay for it without any interest when we had the money to do so. And so finally in 1953 I could buy a 1951 Ford. That was very, very nice. And without asking.
Yeah, I love people like that. They go out of their way without being asked to help others. I think those people are the future leaders of today. So, you talked about your brother going off into service. What was life like growing up on a farm during World War II while your brother was away?
Well, this sounds kind of strange, but in some ways, the farm boys had more, could get gas, more gas. Gas was rationed, and you had to apply for gas stamps to buy gas. But a farmer could get a hold of more gas stamps. Being a farmer, they You're supposed to use it, of course, for on the farm for the tractors and that, but it so worked out that we could also put it in our cars, and so that made quite a difference. We could, you wouldn't even think of that because we don't know what rationing is nowadays.
No, you just go up to the pump, swipe the plastic card in the plastic machine, and boop.
But gas was rationed, and
You still had to pay for the gas.
Yeah, you did,
Yeah,
but it was
that
just
you were allowed to buy more.
you're only allowed a certain amount. Like during the Great Depression, there was a lot of rationing with money and whatnot, and food, lots of food.
so well, we always had food on the table. The farmers at least had a garden out there for food, and milk cows in the barn, and so we always had food supply was plenty on the farm, and all the people in the cities couldn't say that. So it was so we were blessed to be on the farm, and it wasn't easy in many ways, and lived in fear, waiting for the day when the government called your brother up to service, knowing it was going to come someday, and it did. But Albert served and worked in pole line construction, and in that day you didn't have wireless, so you still had to have the wires, and so he's set up a lot of telephone poles and pole lines in Germany, and so he was about well, at least a few miles behind the fighting lines, but he lived to tell about it and come home.
Well, that's always good. I don't know many people around that have lived, not have lived, but that are still around from World War II. So that's.
Of course, he's passed away now,
Oh.
but that's only a few years ago.
Well, still, I don't know many people that served that survived it. So that's pretty cool, and I don't know many amazing, smart people that just lived that time. So that's really good. And earlier I talked about our generation, my generation. I'm 15, so the younger people. What advice would you give the future generations of people? What would you say to them?
Say to what people like
that are eager for a war, or that just
they're eager for a war.
just eager for adventure and action, thinking that going to war is awesome, or being in the services, not in the service. Hold on. That just future generations in general, just anybody. What would you say to them? Any advice?
My brother Elmer came home and he never talked about it very much. But in later years he mentioned some things that he could have said years before, but he didn't want to talk about it. But I remember a city in Germany, they worked setting up pole line construction for telephones a few miles behind the fighting men. And so the day came, they advanced to where those men were, the ones that in the advanced fighting were, and where they fought. And he saw what the bombs had done to that city, and he said it was laid flat.
There's nothing heroic about war.
Laid flat. So it was awful. But he didn't talk about it for years and years, until many years after he got home from service, that he finally started telling me some of those things. Didn't want to talk about it.
So there's nothing good about going out to a
Nothing
fight.
good about it. But it was awful.
Well, you guys heard it from him. And you guys heard it from the wisest man I know. Fights aren't awesome. They're horrible. They can cause a lot of pain. They can cause post-traumatic stress disorder for some warriors. I don't know what my grandpa's brother got, but it can cause some problems. It can cause you to act differently than you normally would. So I would suggest that we don't seek for a fight. Seek to turn the other cheek, based off of what I've heard. So, and just to give you guys an idea of how distant this interview is, he's 91, I'm 15, very big age gap. You don't have to be the same age to learn stuff from each other. I learn a lot from Grandpa every day. Every day that I see him, I learn something new. He's a great guy. So don't put off saying, oh, that 41-year-old's so old. You know what? You want to know what's old? If you are laying down, you're not moving, and you're not breathing, then you're old. You're also dead, but then you're old. So, you got the joke. So, in my opinion, this lovely young man here is still young, and that lovely young woman over there sitting in her chair that you cannot see is still young. So, I hope to see you guys in the next video, and why don't you hit a like button and a subscribe button for me, and also leave in a comment below how much you love your grandparents. Thank you.